Welcome to Go for Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon. You all know my co-host, John. How you doing today?
Hey everyone, doing good, thanks.
All
Doing
right.
good.
So we're going to get into a touchy subject, but I see this a lot. And a lot of it tonight is going to be about false claims that veterans make through the VA. Is there false claims? Of course there is. And I'll go through a couple of stories that I personally know of people who have filed it. But let's get into the statistics of of how many veterans are out there in the United States. So there's 19,349,382. That's a lot of damn veterans. So the government
Well,
better not piss us all off one time. There's a shitload of us. You know, but the staggering number is how many of these veterans have filed or have disability through the VA. And that is the craziest number of them all. Only 5,560,085 and 85 people. I mean, out of 19 million, that's just staggering. But there's a lot of people out there that I do know that are stubborn, like the Korean War veterans. I'm not going to say stubborn, they're old fashioned and they don't want to believe that they need help and stuff like that. And
right.
older Vietnam guys. I mean, I do understand that. But the percentage of the disability rating, and this is from 0 to 100%. So even with the 5 million, that goes all the way from 0 to 100%. So it could be 5, it could be 0, 5, 10, 20, all the way up. So it's only 29.1% out of all the 5 million people. 29.1% have disability rating from 0 to 100 out of the 5 million. I would like to know what the data shows of how many of them are 100%. I would probably say at least a quarter of them. So I'd probably say 3 million that are 100% total disability. But whenever I was going through all the data and going through every single thing that I was going through, I found one thing very interesting. The poverty line. This is what got me. Only 7.5% of veterans live in the poverty line. That part I totally call bullshit. I totally call bullshit because there is no way that only 7.5% live in the poverty line. I mean,
Yeah, define the poverty line of what state, that they're saying all the United States. I'm like,
well, believe it or not, California has the most veterans that live there, come from there, than Texas.
I would have thought Texas was first, but okay.
I would have thought so too, but no, I was wrong. And even in the disability claims, California is first, and then Texas. I think I saw Iowa was in the top 10. If I could be, is it Iowa or Ohio? I don't know which one, but what I find staggering, they're saying 99.4% of the veterans do not file false claims.
Yeah, I mean, why? I mean, I see now. I actually, that's a solid. I think that's a
I
solid
think
information right there. Because
I think I hate to say it, but I think it's a lower. I mean, be honest. I'll tell everybody why. Okay, so let me tell y'all this grand story. So I'm sitting in the VA, and this before, this is when I first started going back in 2015, that I started going back. And this guy comes in and he's sitting down there with me and he's like, "Man, I'm so pissed off at the VA." He is screaming at top of his lungs. He's so mad. He's like, "I want to see the VA. I'm a representative, and I want to talk to them. Why'd they lower my rate when I was at 90% to 10%? And I was like, how in the hell did they lower your rate from 90% to 10%? And he was like, man, I got into a car accident and I broke my leg. I was like, okay, what does that have to do with it? He goes, well, that's the same leg that I had 90% disability on. And I'm like, wait a second. You had you had 90% disability. You got into a car wreck, which was his fault. And he
Mm.
re-injured the leg and broke it in two different places. So what does he do? He files to go to 100%.
Oh boy.
So he files all the information, all of the car wreck over to the VA, and the VA looks at it and says, "Well, wait a second. You're already at 90%. You re-injured it, and you want us to say you're 100% disabled, which this guy was 100% disabled because he was in a wheelchair. He had pins coming out his legs. I mean, the dude was wrecked. But you filed to 100% because your ass got in a car wreck. How how does that make sense? And that's, so why he was sitting there, he says, "Well, you know what? If they ain't gonna give me back my 90% for that, I'm gonna go ahead and file for PTSD. That's untraceable." I'm thinking to myself, you gotta be shitting me. I was like, so you're gonna go and file through the VA for PTSD because your stupid ass got in a car wreck. You were at 90%. They drop you 10 because you decide to run a red light. So he's going to file PTSD on it. And I don't know what ended up happening. I know the cop came out and the VA police officer came out and drug his ass out. But this is I know this is going to be a very tough podcast right here because there is a lot of guys out there that are still have their claims out that haven't been approved for anything, that are filing for PTSD or filing for back injury or cancers that haven't been approved. In which the guys who are legit filing, you got people like that gets into a car wreck and wants a 100% rating. That slows the process down. Should
Yeah.
veterans out there file for PTSD if you sat behind a desk and or you were on board a ship and nothing, you didn't see any action? No. We signed up for this. Now, I'm not saying the chemical warfare and what they did to us out there wasn't traumatic and it's not affecting our lives now, but they're legit guys that saw stuff that I would never see. That them are the ones who need the counseling. Them are the ones who need the help, the outside help, and all that. And not somebody like me. I'm a happy go lucky. And I've said on the podcast, you heard it 100 million times. I don't know much about PTSD. I know about depression. Everybody gets depressed. Every time I look at my bank account after I see Amazon, I get depressed. I mean, shit. Who in the hell don't? But there was a guy, I don't cut his hair anymore because we got into it over this. And I'm not even going to say his name, even though I really want to. He came in and they moved from Washington State to Florida to Texas because it was easier for him to get PTSD in the state of Texas than it is the other states.
Really? He moved deliberately for that?
Deliberately so he can file for PTSD. And I said, well, let me ask you this question. Were you in Desert Storm to go for it? He goes, no, 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 no. I never went over there at all. I'm thinking to myself, how on God's green earth you never saw combat You never been over to Afghanistan, Iraq, or Gulf or Desert Storm or any of that stuff, but you filed for PTSD. He goes, because I think I deserved it. He was in the military for 2 years and he was reserves. They gave it to
Well,
him.
I'm not going to pretend I understand what causes PTSD from one person to the next, but I do think that, like you said earlier, not what was it, 99.4% of us are legitimate, because you tell somebody something, and especially if it's with the VA, the VA writes down everything, and it would be mind-boggling to try and keep on making up shit to come across as believable, and try and remember what you lied about. Why? I mean, I
Right.
just
Right.
I
Well,
don't understand why you want to sit there and try and, I mean, I understand there's people out there, compulsive liars, but you got to remember what the hell you lied about. Most of us that are suffering from things, it's pretty straightforward. You ask us and we'll tell you, typically one veteran to another, this, and this happened. You're not going to go out of your way to talk to most civilians, not because there's no disrespect there. It's just they don't understand, most of them. I mean, the vast majority of them. Even the folks working for VA, they may hear us. I mean, there's a lot of them that are veterans themselves. But it's just I don't know why anybody would try and work so hard at being dishonest and try and file false claims. But clearly it happens, but it's a very minute amount of
it
people.
it,
And
it,
there's
it is. I think it is. I don't think it's 50% or anything like that. I think it's in the 90%. But I think a lot of guys also file for PTSD because their other claims can't get pushed through. I mean, think about it. How many Gulf War veterans out there have you met that are like, man, I've been fighting the VA for 15 damn years to,
Oh yeah.
on
which
this,
is
this, and
which is
this.
pretty amazing, right?
But
I mean, some people got really high tolerance of. I don't have a very high tolerance of it.
but
So
let me ask you this, John. When you got out of the military, be honest. When you were getting out, did they tell you to make a copy of your medical records and go straight
nope,
down to the VA?
hell no,
Do you
no,
know that they actually do that now?
really,
They,
oh,
I bullshit you not. They tell every single one of them, file for PTSD, file for this, file for that. They can't prove it. I literally have guys come in and tell me that at the shop, and they're like, "I'm not filing for that crap." That's
it's kind of weird you ask me, because I now that you've asked me that point blank question, I remember sitting in a room. I don't know, there was probably 2 dozen of us in there ETSing, and I remember being told, if you have something now that you didn't have when you joined the military, and this was not long after the Gulf War, right? And I'm like, a lot of times, okay, if there's stuff going on, but a lot of us, and I've said this 1,000 times, it's a slow burn. You're young. Most of us are. I mean, there are some people, retired, but a lot of us were young and decided to get out after a couple, 2, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, whatever. And you're like, wait a second, is there something going wrong? And then you write your own death certificate. No, everything's fine.
yeah.
You know, and you're like, I have no fucking clue. Well, I threw the F bomb, but I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and then you learn later down in the road. Wait a second, why is this going on? And you're finally, if you talk to the right people, and we are the right people to help you understand what you got going on. It's not original to you, because you were everybody. I shouldn't say everybody. There's a very large number of people that served in the Gulf and in Afghanistan, Iraq, and a lot of other places. And even if you didn't serve over, you could have injuries like we know are like Sarah and other
Vaccines,
vaccine
yeah.
injuries. There's a lot that goes into a lot more detail, but you don't know sometimes. You just don't know. And then you're fighting, you're scratching and clawing, trying to get help. So
And that right there, to me, that right there could cause a lot of trauma, man. Fighting with the VA is a pain in the ass.
yeah.
I mean, but if you seriously got the injuries, don't stop fighting. That's what we're trying to tell everybody. But I mean, make it legit. The reason me and John talked about this, the reason why we're doing this podcast tonight is because I posted out on social media about anybody who wants to come on. And there was a young gentleman, his name was Matt, and I hope he's listening tonight. He was like, "Oh, the only reason y'all do this podcast is so that y'all can teach people how to get free money." And I'm like, dude, that's not what my podcast is about at all. This
Not
journey
remotely.
that I started is about Desert Storm and what they did to us.
Yep.
And I'll frankly tell each and every person out there that I mean, go back and listen to all the episodes. We want to fix what's broken inside of the VA and what's broken inside of us. We don't want people coming on here telling us, "Oh man, this is how you should go file a claim for this," even though you don't have it. That's not what we want out of this podcast. What we want out of our show is to help people get the assistance that they need, get the medical care that they need, the housing that they need, and for anybody out there, we want to lend our ears,
Yeah.
for what they're going through. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it's about.
Yeah, we can't. We provide the information. We're not doctors, lawyers, attorneys. We're veterans that have served, and we've gone through a lot of stuff ourselves. And we're trying. You got to be willing to help yourself. And a lot of problem is the veterans who have reached out and being given no for an answer. There are a lot of us that just get pissed off and say, "Fuck it, I'm done," because
Yep.
they just don't want to keep pursuing because it's like people don't want to listen. Now, so the VA has a lot of challenges. A lot of good people work for the VA. We're not here to bash the VA. It's about bashing. It's trying to understand and how to get your voice heard. And here's how to move forward to get the services that are clearly available. And I say clearly, some people, what do you mean clearly? Well, okay, fair statement. It's really not clear. You have to dig. You have to dig. And that's what we're here to try and provide, the fucking shovel, right? So you can dig down. Here's where you need to go. Here's what you need to
Right.
do.
And
You
for
know?
the level of care that you need for yourself, this is what I explain to a lot of people. And I remember a veteran telling me this back in '95. Don't make an enemy out of the VA. And I'm like, well,
No.
what does it mean by don't make an enemy out of the VA? Well, what they mean by that is don't go in and just start screaming at your doctors.
Right. Right.
Help them educate the doctors. And
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
just for any of y'all that are out there that are like, look, man, I ain't filing false claims. I'm trying to get this done. I can get that done. Man, more power to you. That's what is owed for the shit that they put us through as far as the chemical warfare and part of everything else. And the Afghanistan guys, man, wait till they hit 45, 50 years old and they come out and find out the shit that they were exposed to. They're gonna be coming on going, well, shit, what the hell do we do? Well, this is gonna be y'all's learning experience. Everybody
Well,
out there in TV land, this is what me and John were trying to educate y'all in
yeah.
how to get the help, where to
And the
go to get the
biggest,
help.
people, you know, what people need to try and grasp their hands around, if they're our age or even a little younger, you got to think as the VA is being old school. There's a lot of politics, a lot of old school way of doing things. In other words, oh, here, fill out a form. You're like, wait a second, it's 2022. Can I go online? Yes, but that's why you need to go to your VSO and help them walk through it, or talk to Kevin and I or other people we've had on the show that if maybe we're not able to answer, I mean, we can get the answer, or put you in direct contact with some help. But the VA is old school, and there's a lot of people that work for VA, and things can get convoluted. And where those of us suffering and saying, "Wait, this is pretty straightforward. There's presumptives, there's this, there's that." There is, but they're not going to just wave a magic flag or wave a magic wand and say, "Yes, we're going to give you you have to jump through, you have to prove yourself," which sometimes can be rather challenging. Well, wait a second, it's a presumptive. Why do I got to prove it? because they're not just going to hand it over to you.
You're right.
Um,
You're right. 100% right on that. And I know that's where a lot of guys and gals get frustrated with it. But I want to talk to y'all about Washington State. I want to talk to y'all about Portland. Apparently, their VA systems suck. I was
heard that.
on a phone call with a young lady. I'm not going to say her name this weekend. And I was on the phone for over an hour with her. And I said, move. Eh, You don't got nothing there. If your VA care is that bad, and I mean, but there's multiple people that I've heard about. I don't understand the Northwest having a lot of problems with their VA care. I don't understand it. I told them move to Iowa. They got a Texas, Florida, and I kind of explained to them the difference of healthcare. Why is it that way? I have no idea. It should not be that way. We should all be treated equally. And I even told her, go back and listen to Greg Wilson's part of the podcast about what the hell he went through at that VA. He switched to a different VA. I mean, somewhere down the line, you got move. If that's
Yeah.
and I know it's hard to pick up a move. I know it is economically almost impossible for a lot of people to move. But if you are single and if you have no kids and your health care is that bad at that VA, I tell you to move to a state that you know that the VA healthcare is a whole lot better. And don't go in screaming. Go in and talk to them. Bring in the information to them.
Yeah, that being said, some people would say, well, that's kind of messed up. You're going to tell us to move as opposed to, can't we just make the system work for you? Yes, the reason Kevin says move, it's like, okay, so you're just going to move the problem, that being the problem being you because we can't fix the issue if there is an issue in this state or that state. And we know it's not an easy task. I guess it all boils down is to what is your level of, I mean, you can bring politicians into it, which I did. I've been down that road because I didn't know any different. Meaning I didn't know what was going on to me and I wasn't getting answers. So I brought politicians, right, wrong, or indifferent. A lot of people do it. That's what our government's there to do. Our politicians, we hire them, we bring them in to help us. And it is difficult to just move. It depends on what's going on with you. If it's dire straits, you're not going to fix yourself overnight or the next day or in a week or two. If you've been battling this for a while, and it depends. Yes, I understand. You might have children in school. There's 1,000 different variables, but in the end, it's where's your tolerance? And that's kind of sad to say. Oh, so in other words, you're just going to say that we should just give up on the VA. I'm saying don't give up on yourself. Okay,
Change the
redirect.
route. That's right.
Change your thought.
Change
Change your route.
change what's going through your mindset to help you out. I mean, be honest with you. What after I listened to her story, I started thinking, "Oh my gosh, man, there's no way I'm going to that VA center because that's like the fifth person I've talked to up there that they just don't believe the Gulf War vets."
Yeah.
And I mean, and to me, we shouldn't have to wait. None of us should have to wait for the process. None of us should. Not one single person should have to wait for the process of getting fixed, getting cured, and alleviating the pain. And if they can't do that, then financially, I do hold the government responsible for what they did. I do.
Yeah, I mean, we know, at least as we speak, um, we're not aware of any fixes from those of us who served in the Gulf War. And like you said a few minutes ago, those that served in Afghanistan and even Iraq. I mean, these guys and gals, they might not notice it at the age of 30 or 40, and Is there a cure? There's Band-Aids. There's making life tolerable.
Oh, shit, I should have worn my damn Band-Aid.
Right?
But
Right?
but
Where's your damn Band-Aid?
it is true though, John. It is true. I mean, one things about it is they slap a Band-Aid on it and they send you out. I mean, it is true. But the thing about it is that's what we're all here for. Work together and everything. And me and John have talked to each and every person out there that deals with our show and everything about the outreach program. You can go to the Facebook group, and John is in charge of it. And John needs to start, getting stuff on there, and he's working on it. He's learning
Yeah.
it, but we're going to work this group so that way we can better understand and help veterans. And right now, just the other day, I got a text message from a lady that our friends sent her to me. Her parents in the Korean War. Her dad was,
Mhm.
and she ready to sell her house down here, give up her life, go take care of them. I found her VSO officer, so I'm working with her right now. And that's just it. Every vet should be helping every vet. It doesn't matter if it's Korean War, Desert Storm, Afghanistan. All of us need to be together. But I just believe that, to me, that each and every one of us should be helping it. And I don't think the veterans are divided. I did hear a statement the other day that all the veterans are divided. No, I don't think the veterans are divided. What I think it is we all have different issues from each war, but
Yep.
we all
Yep.
have this same common goal. We want to be fixed, and so and for the people out there that do want to file false claims, eat shit out
Yeah.
there, because you're taking away from veterans out there that I know that really need it, that can't get the help. And for the ones that are still fighting it, keep up the fight. We'll help you along with the process. And the ones that need care, y'all know how to get a hold of me and John. We're easy to find and everything. And so, I mean, John, do you have any last words?
No, no, I this is, we could go on and on, but no, I mean, understand the VA is there for you, but we will help you how to negotiate and not negotiate, navigate through that because it's not an easy go. But you don't know what you don't know, and if you're trying to do it on it, you might be it's just, and I say simple, relatively simple information, but you need to have access, and we are that access for the information, along with a lot of other people. But that's what we're here for. Just reach out. We're not mind readers. We don't know what everybody is doing, um, and hopefully this reaches those folks who. Here's what I can help you with.
Right.
It's information is power, right?
Right.
So
And we're not talking about the financial part. We're talking about the benefits part. The stuff
right.
you earned for serving your country. We're talking about your health care. We're talking about assisted living. We're talking about if you need a walker, wheelchair. You know, guys and gals, get a hold of a VSO officer. Work with them. Tell them what is going on. Go step by step. Know what your benefits are, even for later on in life. So that way your loved ones and your spouse will also be taken care of. But John, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. I just think this was an important topic because it was brought up to me to be talked about. And so
Sure.
I looked up the statistics. I can't believe I said that shit right. But I looked them up. I looked at the data, and I was happy to see it. Are the numbers probably wrong? Probably a little bit, but it's, for myself, I was pleased, very pleased to see that. I was happy with it.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you watching and listening to the podcast.
And until next week, we will be live again. Y'all have a great evening. Thank you for listening to Go For Side Effects. If you have any stories you would like to share or just have any comments or questions, please email me at kevinsimon@goforsideeffects.com. Just to let all of our listeners know, we have opened an online store. All proceeds will go to helping veterans connect. The link will be in the description below.